The internet is ablaze over Stefon Diggs and the New England Patriots parting ways, just one season after a Super Bowl victory. And the whispers surrounding the relationship between Diggs and head coach Mike Vrabel are raising some serious questions that demand answers. The history between these two went from public praise to a stunning release that no one anticipated, and we are about to break down every single detail. So Stefon Diggs is no longer in New England, and the narrative woven from what he said and what others said about him runs much deeper than a simple business decision. Let's dive in. The move that sent shockwaves through the NFL. On March 4th, 2026, the story broke. Stefon Diggs' chapter in New England was officially closed. The Patriots notified the four-time Pro Bowl receiver of their intention to release him at the start of the new league year on March 11th. According to NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero, this was a player who had just been a cornerstone in taking the team to the Super Bowl. In 17 regular season games, Diggs hauled in 85 passes for 1,003 yards and 4 touchdowns, all while serving as the emotionally charged veteran leader the young Patriots desperately needed. He was their guy. He was the one Drake Maye relied upon every single Sunday. He paced the Patriots in catches, yards, and first downs. He also led in receptions of 20-plus yards while scoring 4 touchdowns and helping quarterback Drake Maye achieve an MVP-caliber season. And still, with all of that output, with all of that leadership, with every contribution he made to their 14-3 record, the Patriots told him his services were no longer needed. New England's official reason was purely financial. An additional $6 million of Diggs' contract was slated to become fully guaranteed at the end of the following week, which forced the Patriots to act, informing Diggs ahead of the deadline so he could get a head start on finding his next team. Now, at first glance, this appears to be a straightforward salary cap decision. Despite his output, Diggs was set to have a cap number of $26.5 million heading into the 2026 season. That is a figure that would make any front office think twice. By cutting him, the team absorbs a dead cap hit of $9.7 million this year, but avoids paying out the $26.5 million he was owed. At the end of the day, the Patriots save about $16.8 million by releasing Diggs when the new league year begins. But this is where the story gets complicated. Why on earth would Diggs consider a pay cut or any contract adjustment after a massively productive season where he was also a critical leader in the locker room? Reports began to surface that Diggs and the Patriots couldn't find common ground on restructuring his contract, so the team decided to cut him loose. Now, pay attention to how Diggs handled the news. He publicly showed his gratitude for his time as a Patriot, sharing 2 photos on social media with a caption, "Thank you for a hell of a year until we meet again." On the surface, it looks like a classy departure. But if you rewind and look at the events that unfolded during the season between Diggs and the coaching staff, you'll find there are many more layers to this onion. Allow me to take you back to September 2025, because this is where the first public signs of tension began to show. After a game against the Carolina Panthers where he caught 6 passes for 101 yards, Diggs was asked about his comfort level in the offense. His answer, 5 out of 10. Diggs flatly told reporters that his comfort within the Patriots system was a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. That single comment ignited a media firestorm. We were only in week 4 of the season. This was the player New England had signed to a 3-year, $63.5 million deal to be their top receiver, and he was broadcasting to the world he was only halfway comfortable with the playbook. Those comments were relayed to head coach Mike Vrabel on WEEI's The Greg Hill Show, and Vrabel immediately cut in, saying, "Then he should study more." Vrabel continued, saying, 5 out of 10. "We need to get going. I'll have to talk to Steph today. 5 out of 10. I went to Ohio State. That's failing." Now, Vrabel was laughing when he said it. The tone may have been light, but the words themselves carried a heavy message. A head coach telling his star receiver in public that he needed to study more, essentially giving his self-assessment a failing grade. You just don't hear that every day in the NFL. And it perfectly set the stage for the tense dynamic these two would share. The veteran wideout insisted after the game that his comfort in New England's system was still at a 5 out of 10. Offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels tried to smooth it over, saying, "It's probably like a 9 out of 10, with a smile and a wink." McDaniels suggested Diggs was just being modest and publicly assessed his star's understanding of the offense much higher than Diggs himself did. Several days later, Diggs attempted to walk back his comments. "When I said the other day it was a 5 out of 10, obviously, I was being facetious or sarcastic in a way," Diggs stated. He tried to explain he was just trying to keep himself motivated, not to stir up any trouble. But that heated exchange between Diggs and Vrabel was already out there, and that's precisely the kind of interaction that sticks with people. When you work in the same building, The things you say to the press have a completely different echo in the hallways and behind closed doors. The season, the stats, the leadership, and the underlying friction. Following the 5 out of 10 moment, Diggs did what he does best. He got back to work, and his performance on the field was undeniable. Diggs closed out the 2025 season with 85 catches for 1,003 yards and 4 touchdowns, creating some spectacular moments, particularly during the regular season. In the Patriots' 4 primetime games alone, Diggs accounted for 31 receptions and 415 receiving yards. He also recorded 5 total games with over 100-plus yards receiving and, in fact, became the franchise's first 1,000-yard receiver since Julian Edelman back in 2019. That last statistic speaks volumes. The Patriots hadn't had a receiver hit that benchmark since Julian Edelman. Diggs managed to do it in his very first year there, coming back from a torn ACL he suffered during his time with the Houston Texans. He appeared in every single contest despite having undergone major ACL surgery in the offseason. And his value was not just measured in statistics. The 32-year-old receiver became the emotional engine for the Patriots, firing up the team with his pregame speeches. He was the one who popularized the saying, "We all we got, we all we need," inside the Patriots locker room. While other teams had dabbled with the strategy, the Patriots perfected it, making it their own during that incredible playoff surge. Let's not forget, this was a franchise coming off a disastrous 4-13 season. To catapult from that record straight to the Super Bowl is nothing short of remarkable. Diggs himself spoke with pride about being integral to that massive turnaround, a staggering 10-win improvement. They seized the division title and blazed a trail through the playoffs all the way to Super Bowl 60, with Diggs standing as the catalyst for that profound culture shift. But this is where we have to examine the turmoil that was simmering just beneath the surface all season long. Before the year even began, a video went viral showing Diggs celebrating on a boat with an unknown pink substance, launching his Patriots career under a dark cloud. That was the first public disruption. This happened before he had taken a single regular season snap, forcing the organization into immediate damage control. Then, as December rolled around, the situation took a far darker turn. Diggs was suddenly facing assault charges, accused of choking his personal chef. The allegations were grave. He was confronted with a felony strangulation charge, among other criminal counts stemming from the alleged confrontation. Diggs pleaded not guilty to every charge. His pretrial hearing was scheduled for April 1st. When the allegations broke, Coach Vrabel had to stand before the press, and his response was incredibly telling. "I view these as allegations," Vrabel stated. "These are situations we must navigate, and every single day brings distractions. Some are simply larger than others. I'm confident we'll maintain our focus on the Dolphins, and the 2 individuals you're asking about will handle the ongoing legal matter." Those were exceptionally calculated words. Vrabel made no effort to personally champion Diggs. He talked about procedure. He talked about the team. He was speaking the language of a coach managing a crisis, not a coach going to war for his star athlete. Now, compare his reaction to the organization's official response. The Patriots' statement confirmed they knew of the allegations and that they stood in support of Diggs. But Vrabel, his words were meticulously chosen. "These are allegations, just as you framed them in your question. They are things we have to manage. Distractions are a daily occurrence. Some are just smaller in scale than others." He effectively categorized felony charges as just another one of the league's daily annoyances. That isn't the sound of a coach rallying his support. That is the sound of a coach deliberately creating distance. All the while, Diggs continued to play, and the team continued to win. But the unspoken question of what was truly transpiring between the star receiver and the coaching staff loomed like a shadow over the entire season. Analyst Skip Biss later highlighted Diggs' dominant showing during New England's shocking Week 5 victory against the Buffalo Bills. That game was one of only 5 instances where the wideout surpassed 100 receiving yards last season. It was a message game, with Diggs returning to Buffalo and lighting it up. Yet even in those triumphant displays, there was an unmistakable feeling that Diggs was playing with a resentment that extended far beyond the opposing team. Now, for the Super Bowl aftermath and what Vrabel's comments truly revealed, the Patriots fought their way to Super Bowl 60, where they would clash with the Seattle Seahawks. For Diggs, this night was meant to be the glorious climax of a redemption season. Instead, he was rendered almost invisible in Super Bowl 60, finishing with just 3 catches for 37 yards. The offense, as a whole, was paralyzed. The Patriots' offense delivered one of its most inept performances of the entire year. "We struggled," Diggs admitted. "There are always plays you wish you could have back. We just didn't bring our best," Diggs said. Following the defeat, he was brutally honest. "We were beaten by a skilled, opportunistic team," he declared. It was short, direct, and free of excuses, but it also lacked any further explanation. Diggs was famous for his emotional displays after playoff losses, particularly during his tenure with the Buffalo Bills. On this occasion, his demeanor was subdued, almost unnaturally so. And then, the inevitable question about his future with the franchise was asked. Diggs let reporters know he intended to stay with the Patriots for the upcoming season, but he also conceded that the choice wasn't entirely in his hands. "Hell yeah, unless they opt out of the contract," Diggs responded. He quickly followed up with, "I fully expect to be here. I hope I am. I love my teammates. It was a hell of a year playing alongside them. We formed some true family-like connections, so I certainly hope so. But I don't control it." That single phrase, "I don't control it," was a dead giveaway. Diggs knew. He might not have known the exact timeline, but he understood the power was no longer his. This meant conversations had already happened. The warnings had been issued. The outcome was decided before the ink on the Super Bowl's final score was even dry. And then, at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis on February 25th, Mike Vrabel addressed the topic of Diggs. The specific words he selected are what ignited the very conversation we are having at this moment. "Well, it's not just about his future, but what he was able to accomplish for us, coming in and providing leadership," Vrabel said on February 25th at the Combine. He also noted, "He was incredibly dedicated during his rehab from the knee injury. I felt he was a genuinely positive presence to have around every single week." On the face of it, those are complimentary remarks. But pay attention to what Vrabel omitted. He never said Diggs was coming back. He never said the team couldn't win without Diggs. He never voiced a commitment to the athlete who led the team in every single receiving statistic. He was speaking of Diggs in the past tense. He lauded the rehab, the leadership, the presence, not the future. And with that, Vrabel skillfully pivoted to what the team required moving forward. That level of consistency, the power to create those explosive plays. It's tough to drive the ball 10 or 12 plays, and we have to get better. "Sharpen the details and perfect the execution," he said, adding, "We are all accountable for that. The blame rests on all of us, from the play callers to the players on the field." That's the sound of a head coach publicly admitting his offense failed in the biggest moment, making sure to spread the fault across the entire organization. But when the player who was your leader in catches, yards, first downs, and catches of 20-plus yards is suddenly cut just 1 week later, the underlying message becomes crystal clear. The coaching staff decided on a radical new direction, and Stefon Diggs was not part of that future. At the NFL Scouting Combine, head coach Mike Vrabel remarked that true number one receivers are exceptionally hard to find. They aren't just waiting around in free agency. You have to go find them in the draft. I believe that's where the majority of them are found. You cultivate them, Vrabel explained. He made that statement before the release had even been made public. He was already signaling to the entire league that the Patriots were turning the page. He was already designing a future that did not have Stefon Diggs in it. And everyone took note, especially given the father figure comment and the crushing irony of it all. Now, this is where the entire situation becomes even more captivating. Because what Diggs said about Vrabel mid-season, the very words he chose, makes this ending feel like an absolute betrayal in the eyes of the fans. Back in January, while the Patriots were still fighting in the playoffs, Diggs gave a powerful endorsement of Mike Vrabel. "He's a phenomenal coach," Diggs stated. "He's also like a second father figure. He's taught me so much in a brief period about how to approach the game and just keep moving forward through adversity, maintaining a positive attitude, and putting the team first. It's not something I'd say I had a problem with in my career, but as a receiver, it can be a challenge to be completely focused on everyone else. A father figure, those are incredibly potent words." Diggs, a player who has been branded a diva in the past, who had a chaotic departure from Buffalo, who was dealt from the Bills to the Texans, and who tore his ACL while in Houston. This was a man who discovered something in Vrabel that he viewed as a paternal connection. It was a bond founded on approach, mindset, and selflessness. Diggs is an athlete who has battled the label of diva receiver at other points in his journey. He famously spent 4 years with their division nemesis, the Buffalo Bills, before he was traded away to the Houston Texans. A legion of fans held the receiver responsible for destroying the relationship in Buffalo, which ultimately led to him being moved. And yet, there wasn't a single whisper of such drama during his 18 games in Foxborough. And it seemed his bond with Vrabel was the reason for that peace. Throughout the season, the prevailing story was that Vrabel had achieved what no other coach had been able to. He extracted the absolute best from Diggs without any of the drama. He managed the personality, harnessed the intensity, and cultivated a space where Diggs could truly excel. The Patriots are going to feel the loss of his professional approach at practice, and the guidance he offered the younger players will be a massive void for them going forward. They will feel his absence in the locker room and as a source of inspiration on the sideline, so now they must find someone else to rise up and fill that leadership role. But then the season was over. The Super Bowl was lost. And less than a month later, the father figure cut the son. That is a difficult reality to accept for anyone watching this story unfold. Diggs committed everything he had to that organization. He showered his coach with public praise. He put his body on the line in every game, playing on a knee that had been surgically repaired. He gave the locker room a unifying voice. And in exchange for all that, he was handed his walking papers. The irony is thick, considering things ended badly for Diggs in Buffalo. It's a common story for superstar receivers. The Patriots are moving on before any animosity could possibly develop. The organization seemingly learned by observing the chaos in Buffalo and opted to cut the cord before the relationship had a chance to sour. But is that a clever justification, or is it a prophecy they fulfilled themselves? During the season, Diggs was asked about his path through the league. "I view every stop the same way. I had an amazing time in Minnesota, an amazing time in Buffalo, an amazing time in Houston," Diggs recounted. "I refuse to compare. In my view, comparison is the thief of joy. I had a great experience in every one of those places. Did it work out in the end? No. But I am content with where I am at this moment and embracing everything I have going on here. So I am just incredibly blessed." He was talking about New England like it was home. He was talking about the Patriots as the organization where he had finally achieved a sense of peace. And now, he's forced to find a new team, his third in just 3 years. The very notion that Diggs is now searching for a third team in the span of only 2 years implies that the issue might lie more with him than with any single franchise. That is a brutal take, but it's the one that is now making the rounds. And it begs the question, is it Diggs or is it the cold reality of the business? What is the next chapter? And was the headline true? So, did Stefon Diggs actually blow up at Patriots coach Mike Vrabel after being released? This is the truth. What we're witnessing is a situation built upon layers of remarks, behaviors, and decisions that, when stacked on top of each other, paint a portrait of two men who held each other in high regard but were never perfectly in sync. The 5 out of 10 remark. Vrabel's "he should study more" response. The praise delivered in the past tense at the combine. The release that came right before his guaranteed money kicked in. Diggs did not explode in a press conference. He did not post an angry social media rant. What he did was something that, for a player with his history, might have been even more telling. He kept his words to a minimum. He expressed gratitude to the team. "Thank you for a hell of a year," the 32-year-old posted on his Instagram stories. "We are family forever," and that was all he wrote. Not a single word about Vrabel, no mention of the coaching staff, no acknowledgement of the front office, just the team and the fans. When a player who described his coach as a father figure fails to mention that coach in his goodbye, it sends a powerful message. When a player who served as the emotional core of a locker room condenses his farewell into a few short sentences on a temporary Instagram story, people understand the unspoken message. And everyone around the NFL is currently reading between the lines. Skip Bayless is sounding the alarm, insisting the New England Patriots have just made a blunder they will come to bitterly regret by cutting Stefon Diggs. It's a mystery whether the tipping point was Diggs' looming court battle or his abysmal average of just 27.5 receiving yards during the playoffs. But it was his stellar regular season campaign that has Skip Bayless convinced the organization will soon be haunted by this decision. Speaking on the arena's YouTube channel, the outspoken host declared that the Patriots will be feeling the immense void left by Stefon Diggs next season. In stark contrast to the franchise's cold, calculated announcement, Drake Maye's reaction was intensely personal. The Patriots' star quarterback threw up an Instagram story showing him and Diggs sharing a smile, punctuated by a single heart emoji. That is a teammate screaming, "I wish you were still here," without saying a single word. The chasm between Maye's heartfelt post and the team's ruthless spreadsheet decision reveals everything about who saw Diggs as a brother and who saw him as just another asset. Of course, there is also the chaos swirling around his life off the gridiron. Away from the field, Diggs' relationship with the rapper Cardi B, with whom he has a child born last November, collapsed right as the Patriots were making their Super Bowl push. And on top of that, Stefon Diggs has entered a plea of not guilty to serious assault charges brought by his former private chef. This all happened less than a week after his split from Cardi B and a soul-crushing Super Bowl defeat. The confluence of events in Diggs' life is a pressure cooker that could break anyone. The Patriots' move to sever ties with Stefon Diggs comes while the star receiver is entangled in active criminal proceedings. And while the organization maintains that the cut was purely a financial calculation and had no connection to his legal troubles, the narrative feels incomplete. The front office can say it's all about the money, but the timing, the legal drama, and that disastrous playoff run all weave into the story. The personal dynamics, the heartbreak, it's all part of the equation, whether anyone in power wants to admit it or not. Now, turning to what awaits the Patriots, New England finds itself facing yet another massive hurdle this offseason. After jettisoning Diggs, their reported attempt to reel in a big-name replacement has already crashed and burned. In the wake of Diggs' departure, New England scrambled to find new weapons to build around their cornerstone quarterback, Drake Maye. Whispers grew loud about a pursuit of A.J. Brown, leveraging his past connection with Coach Vrabel from their shared days in Tennessee. Brown, who was drafted by a Mike Vrabel-led Titans team in the second round of the 2019 NFL Draft, delivered 2 seasons of over 1,000 yards before he was ultimately traded to Philadelphia. For Diggs, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler has identified the Giants and Titans as potential destinations, though a deal for the veteran receiver might not materialize overnight. And then there are the explosive rumors of a potential reunion with the Bills, a move that would add a truly spectacular layer of drama to this saga. Tennessee is desperate for talent across the board, and that includes giving their young quarterback Cam Ward more firepower. The Titans front office must have watched how Diggs helped transform Drake Maye into an MVP candidate in his second year, hoping he could work that same magic on Ward. Plus, there's a deep-seated familiarity between Diggs and offensive coordinator Brian Daboll. Daboll was his coach back in Buffalo. So, what is the final tally? Stefon Diggs delivered a 1,000-yard season for the New England Patriots. He delivered them leadership. He delivered a seismic culture shift. He delivered a Super Bowl appearance. He openly called his head coach a father figure. And as a thank you, the Patriots delivered him his walking papers right before his guaranteed money activated. So did Diggs explode on Vrabel? Not in a fiery outburst, but in the chilling silence, the curt goodbye, the glaring omission of his coach's name in his farewell message. Sometimes, the words left unsaid are the ones that echo the loudest, and everyone around the NFL is paying close attention. The tale of Stefon Diggs and the New England Patriots is a cautionary one that will be dissected for years. It's a vortex of money, elite performance, clashing personalities, off-field scandals, and a coach-player bond that devolved from family to former colleague in the blink of an eye. Whichever franchise signs Diggs next is getting a player with a massive chip on his shoulder, because he will never forget how this chapter ended. And if he finds himself staring down the Patriots from the opposite sideline next season, that memory will be pure fuel. At this point, the question isn't whether Stefon Diggs can still perform at an elite level. He put that argument to rest in 2025. The real question is whether the Patriots made a colossal error in judgment by letting him go. And judging by the team's chaotic start to this offseason, the answer to that question is very much up in the air.